Hey everyone, I'm THPine and welcome to Due Process. This game is in closed alpha right now, but I have access to it, so I decided to make this video to give you a little bit of insight into what this game is all about. It's under NDA right now, and while I'm allowed to talk about it, I'm not allowed to give you any videos or pictures that aren't available, publicly available already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take clips and videos from the publicly available blog posts and try to match them to what I'm saying in this video, so you get a good idea on what this game looks like. So this is going to be a pretty long ramble because I'm just going to talk about everything I can think of, basically. So I'm going to put timestamps in the descriptions below so you can skip the topics you don't care for and go to the topics you want to hear more about. So let's get started, shall we? So Due Process is a 5v5 tactical first-person shooter. So what makes this game stand out is the fact that all the maps are randomly generated. So you get a new map every round. That's technically not correct, but that's the idea. That was the original plan. The original plan was to generate a new map for every round you play, so you always have a fresh new map. For technical reason, that got scrapped, but we got a pretty good solution here that works basically to the same goal. So how it works is that there's an algorithm that produces the foundation for the maps. So it produces almost finished maps, and it produces tons of them, like a lot. And then a human takes these maps or these map foundations and cuts the ones that are just bad. Like the generator or their algorithm will produce a few ones that are just unsalvageable and they get cut. And then the human takes the other ones and makes them good. Like they give them the finishing touch, place a few more objects, change a few things around if necessary, and just make them good maps. Because it turns out it's pretty hard to produce really good maps by random. So that's the idea, and the idea is to now streamline this process so it takes very little or as few human interaction as possible, so to make it really easy to produce a huge number of maps. So when you play the game, there will be hundreds or even thousands of maps available at the same time. So when you get in a new round and get a new map, there is the potential that you played it before, but it's very unlikely, and even if you did, you probably don't remember. So the goal or the effect is the same as with the original idea. There's no map knowledge in this game. So every map you play on, you have to make new plans. You can't rely on things you learned before about this map, and you have to make a new plan and play with it. So there's no map knowledge, and I think that's the outstanding feature of this game, and this is why I personally am so extremely interested in it and enjoy it quite a bit so far. So the general structure is one of attackers versus defenders. So as I said, it's 5v5. We have 5 defenders defending a building. They set up a bomb which has a timer on it, and then you have the 5 attackers which will try to breach the building and defuse the bomb and usually kill the defenders, but not necessarily. They can defuse the bomb and just leave or whatever. The goal is to defuse the bomb. So the bomb takes 10 seconds to defuse. You have to hold the button while you do so. You can stop the defuse and it will not reset, so you can defuse it for 3 seconds, then come back or kill an enemy and then come back and defuse the last 7 seconds to win the game. So that's how the basic mechanic works. Then the game is played right now anyway, so the game mode might change, but right now it's played in a best of 9, so first to 5 mode. And there's side swapping after every 3 rounds. So you play 3 rounds as one side, attackers or defenders, and then you swap around to the other side for 3 rounds. And then after round 6, you swap the side again. And as I said, best of 9. So after 5 victories, one team wins and the match is over. So this 3-round set structure is the foundation for another very important aspect of the game, which is equipment management, because you have a limited pool of equipment per side. So you're playing 3 rounds with the same pool of equipment. So the attackers, for example, they have an attacker van or a truck, and in that van is a big wall. And on that wall, there are a bunch of weapons and equipment. And you can pick them in round 1, and then you go into the round, play a round, and in round 2 on a new map, you spawn again in the van. And now the wall will not be full anymore because, well, the equipment doesn't respawn until you switch sides. So you have 3 rounds to play with the same pool of equipment without respawning it. If you die, you will lose your equipment, but if you survive, you can take what you still have. So if you're dying, if you get full team wipe for the first 2 rounds, then usually your wall is pretty empty at the beginning of round 3 because you could not recover anything. And you can also steal the equipment from the others, from the opponents if you survive. And that's especially important for the defenders. The defenders, right now, they have a defender room, which also has a big wall, which works the same way as the attacker van does. But there are plans to change that system to a kind of economy system where you buy things, but details on that are still foggy. So I'm not going to go into detail on, or not going to talk about it. But basically, they have a limited equipment pool as well. And defender weapons are in general weaker than the attacker weapons. So especially for defenders, it's really important or really valuable when you survive a round and you kill, like you won the round and survived, to loot the attackers and steal their weapons. There are a bunch of reasons for that. A, the weapons are better. B, they have some equipment you don't have access to. That's true for the other side as well. And C, the attacker weapons all have flashlights, which the defenders have not. But we're going to talk about lightning in a minute or so. So that's how equipment management works in this game. So let's talk about the maps, shall we? So there are a bunch of different ways of entering the building. And this is really important because entering the building, like that's the core premise of the SWAT power fantasy. Like the moment you kick down the door, you breach the door, and you go in and clear the room. So that's the core fantasy this game relies on. So entering the building, is really important in this game. So there are multiple ways of doing that. There are green doors. They're not really green, but they're green. Like they are color-coded on the map screen. So you have a map screen where you can make your plans on, and then you have the first-person view where you just play the game. And on the map screen, they're green. They're not green in the first-person view, but they're referred to as green doors anyway. And they're green because they're free entries. You can either kick them or you can shotgun the handle to open them a little bit quicker. Kicking them is pretty dangerous because it puts you, like, it locks you in a spot in front of the door for like a second or so. So you're pretty easy target. So you want to avoid that if possible. But if you have a shotgun, you can just shoot the handle to open the door. Then the next important entry point are red doors. In contrast to the green doors, those are not free entries. You cannot just kick them or shotgun them open. You have to breach them with a door charge or a wall charge. Usually a door charge. Wall charges are used for other things, but both work fine. So they are usually actually red in the game because they're usually like fire doors. Fire exits. So they are big red doors, like heavy doors, which you cannot just open. So you have to breach them with a door charge, as mentioned. And I mentioned the wall charges already. You can use them for blowing up a door, but you can also use them to destroy interior walls. Exterior walls are not like breachable, but interior walls are with the wall charge. So that's the idea of the wall charge. You can either just use it on a door, or you use it on an interior wall to not enter the building, but to get a different path through the building. And basically all interior walls, with a very few exceptions, are actually breachable right now. However, and that's the thing I'm going to mention because a lot of people ask about it, there is no destruction from bullets, at least not like on the walls and stuff. Like if you play Rainbow Six Siege, you can shoot holes in walls and stuff like that. That's not a thing in here. You can destroy some like props and stuff, but you're not going to destroy like solid cover or walls with just shooting them. You have to breach it, or you have to blow it up with the charge. So other things you can blow up or enter through or whatever. There are fences. Fences are like they basically work like an interior wall, but they're usually outside, obviously. So they're kind of exterior walls you can breach with a wall charge, but they're obviously see-through. So you can shoot through them on the other side, but to get through, you have to actually breach them open. And there are so that's another element that is not on all maps, but on some maps. Like you usually always find green and red doors. The other elements are a little bit more special and are only on certain maps. Or certain tile sets even sometimes. For example, the shutters. The shutters are only on the C-store tile set, but I'm going to talk about tile set in a minute. So another way of entering a building, on some maps there are windows, like they're huge windows. You can just, glass windows you can just walk through. Like the moment you walk through them or you shoot them, they break and they're just a completely free entry. But they're also see-through, so that's the difference to the green doors, obviously. They're also like small windows which you can shoot through, which have like bars, so you cannot actually get through them, but you can shoot through them. But those are not like a way of entering the building. But there are things you can, like sometimes you can look into a building or outside. That's important as well, obviously. So talking about windows, on the C-store tile set, as I said, I'm going to talk about tile set a little more in a moment, but on the C-store, so in the convenience store tile set, there are shutters, because there is like a huge storefront which is, well, a glass storefront. So there's lots of glass windows in the front, basically. And you could, as mentioned, just walk through them to get into the building. But the C-store has a shutter which can come down and acts like a wall. And the interesting thing is that there is a button for it in the teller room. And you can press a button to get the shutters down or up. And the teller room is like a little fort because it's not easy to enter, and it has bulletproof windows. So it's like a little fort, and it controls the shutters. So usually what the defenders do at the beginning of the round, they press a button to get the shutters down, and now the storefront is not as easily breachable. But there's like situations where defenders want to pull up the shutters, or there are situations where the attackers make a plan to get into the teller room and then open up the shutters to have, for example, have a sniper sitting outside and it's shooting into the storefront room. So shutters, when they are down, can be breached with either a wall charge, which just makes an entry, or with a door charge, which will not completely blow them up, but make like a little peeking hole where you can shoot through. So the last way of entering the building I want to talk about is the fan. It's only available on the factory tile side. It's pretty special, like it's a huge fan. And it's active, so it's rotating, so you cannot just walk through, because if you would, you die. But the game doesn't allow that to happen. You just like it acts like basically like an unbreachable window, so you can, well, not really, like I guess like an unbreachable window kind of. You cannot walk through, but you can shoot through. You cannot throw grenades through it, but as I said, you can shoot through and you can see through. However, the fan can be blown open with the door charge, which allows you for an entry, not free. You have to charge it, but you can enter through the fan if you blow it up. Or the fan will stop when you either shoot it from the inside. So if you get into the building from somewhere else and shoot the fan from the inside, it will stop. And at that point, you can walk through it or throw grenades through it. Or you can turn it off by turning off the power, which I'm going to talk about in a moment as well. So yeah, those are the different ways of entering the building. So what about the outside of the building? So there is a UAV, so a little drone that flies around the building, which supports the attackers. And basically what it does is it prevents the defenders from going outside. So the moment a defender gets in the line of sight of the drone, so he steps outside, usually there are ways of avoiding the drone, but usually the moment you step outside, it will lock onto you. And then it takes, I think, around 2 seconds until it shoots you. So at the moment you go out, there's like a huge light on you and a noise and stuff. And when you stay in the line of sight of the drone, it will shoot you and you instantly die. So that's the way of keeping the defender in the building. As mentioned, as I just said, like there are ways of avoiding that. You can like stick to the wall when the drone is on the other side, like it's rotating around the building. So if you time it correctly, you have a few more seconds to walk around and do some outside or exterior flank or whatnot. So that's the mechanic around that. Then another very important map mechanic is the breaker, because the breaker turns off the lights. And lights are really important in this game for the gameplay, for the first-person shooter gameplay, because like if the lights are out, it's freaking dark. You don't see shit on some maps. Like some maps are a little lighter on this, like when they have lots of windows, like on Factory it's played with moonlight, so if you're near a window there will be some illumination from outside, but usually it's really, really dark. You could also, instead of just turning off the breaker, you can, like that's a tactic the defenders sometimes deploy, they can shoot out the lights in a room, and that makes it really dark as well. But usually power out is an advantage for the attackers, because they have two very strong tools to work around the darkness. Every attacker gun has a flashlight you can turn on or off, so that's pretty useful when it's dark. And they have NVGs, which allows them to see, like not perfect in the dark, but pretty good, like way better than without NVGs when it's dark. However, if you get if you're looking in a flashlight or something, or in a flare, then it's pretty hard to see anything with the NVGs on, so that's kind of the downside for them. And so usually lights out is an attacker strategy, so the breaker is an important secondary objective on the map, because when the attackers get to it, they turn off the lights, and the defenders are usually at a disadvantage at that point, so they want to defend that as well. However, there are some not downsides, but there's some side effects to it. So after, I think, 30 seconds or so, the emergency lights will turn on. Well, on some maps. Not all maps have emergency lights, but the ones that have will go on after the breaker has been turned off, and like after 30 seconds. And they make like a dim red light, so it's still not perfectly visible. There's not perfect visibility there, but they're definitely even out the grounds again, so the defenders can actually see what's going on again and can navigate on the map again and see the attackers, most importantly. And that's a thing to keep in mind. However, after you can turn off the power again after the emergency lights came on and turn it off again after that. So you wait for the emergency lights to go on, then you turn the power on and off again, and emergency lights will be off again, and you have to wait 30 seconds for them to come back. So that's kind of the thing. So after the attackers take the breaker, they usually want to be quick because they only have 30 seconds until emergency lights go on, and their big light advantage, or darkness advantage, I guess, is diminished a little bit. So another thing that happens when you turn off the power is there are automatic doors. They're usually referred to as ding-dong doors because every time you get next to them, they open up automatically and they make a ding-dong. So if you stay next to the door and move forward and backward a lot, they make a very annoying ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong noise all the time. So that's why they're called ding-dong doors. But as mentioned, when the power is off, those doors don't work anymore and they just stay shut. So that's really interesting on some maps where you there is a strategy to take the power, but that will that will cut you off, that will cut off the short path to the bomb, so you have to go around. Or sometimes you can turn off the power and trap the defenders in a room with no exit because you just close the door behind them. So there are some interesting mechanics with that. And the last thing that the breaker does, which I already mentioned, is it turns off the fan. So the moment the power is out, you can walk through the fan, or the moment the power is out, the fan is a free entry. So another thing you can find on maps are fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers are on the walls, but you can pick them up and put them somewhere else. And the moment they get shot, they act as a pretty shitty, but not shitty, but they act as a unpredictable smoke grenade. So the smoke is not the smoke is unpredictable, but it's a lot of smoke. So it usually obstructs vision quite a bit, but it's not quite there are smoke grenades for the attackers, which are way more predictable. They have a pretty I don't know a good word, but they have a good smoke cloud, and the fire extinguishers just make weird smoke. But it's a lot of smoke, so it's basically a makeshift smoke grenade the defenders can use, or the attackers in some situations as well. So, as mentioned earlier, I want to talk about tile sets. Right now there are 3 different tile sets, but there are more tile sets in the works. The first one is the also already mentioned C-store or convenience store. It's a little 24/7 market with a huge storefront, which has the shutters, as I mentioned. Then there's the teller room where the shutters controls are in. The teller room is usually a small but sometimes a little bigger room with bulletproof windows and one bulletproof door. And this door acts it's a mix of a green and red door, actually. You cannot kick it, but you can shotgun it open, or you can breach it open with a door charge. Sometimes there's another way into the teller room through a regular door, which you can just kick down. But if you want to go through the front door into the teller, you have to have a shotgun or a door charge available for that. Usually the shotgun is the way to go here. Also, while the whole thing is bulletproof, there's a little teller hole where you usually put the money through, which can be shot through. So that's an interesting thing. When someone is hiding in a teller room or camping the bomb, often the teller hole is looking at the bomb, so that the attacker cannot just sit at the bomb and defuse it, because then they get shot from the teller hole. So they have to clear out the teller first. And there are a lot of situations where you have this little peekaboo game around the teller hole, which can be interesting. You can also, if you're really precise, you can get a frag grenade or a grenade in general through that hole, which is devastating for whoever is inside. The C-store also has one special room, which is the freezer. The freezers sometimes have the freezer shelves, which basically are shelves in the wall. So they're a connection between the freezer and the storefront, and there's stuff in them, bottles and whatnot, and cans. And you can look you have a line of sight or out of the freezer into the storefront and the other way around, and you can shoot them. You can shoot the thingies, you can shoot the shelves which will destroy them, which allows you to get through there as well. You can walk through them then there. So that's usually another like room you want to clear. Like if there's freezer shelves are looking at the bomb, the attackers definitely want to clear out the freezer before they before they start defusing the bomb. Okay, the next tile set I mentioned already is the factory tile set. The factories are like defined by huge rooms usually. Like they have a few smaller ones as well, but mostly huge rooms. And they have fans. Like there are only maps, tile set that have fans, and they also have the dock doors, like the loading docks. The loading docks basically they work very similar to red doors, kind of. Like you can breach them with a door charge, which allows you to enter them, but they can also be open and closed from the inside with a button. And that has some interesting mechanics as well. So the defenders can open them, shoot outside, or walk outside for a really quick exterior flank if they don't get shot by the drone. And so that's kind of the important features of the factory. They also have a lot of the factories have an office room, which is in a lot of situations like elevated, like it's a little higher than the rest of the maps. Like the factory is definitely the map with the most verticality right now. There are also catwalks where you can walk on and stuff like that. There's a lot of verticality and big rooms. So usually you want to take like long range weapons and whatnot. And also are no emergency lights on factories, but there's the moon outside. Like there's full moon, which brings some illumination in even if the power is out. But it's still getting pretty dark in there. The last tile set I didn't mention yet is the Killhouse tile set. It's like a training facility, and it's basically like it's a training setup for the attackers where they train to attack a club. So they train a scenario where the defenders have a bomb in a club, in a nightclub, and they try to go in there. But it's definitely a training area, so everything is made out of wood and stuff, and everything is just props and not like a really nightclub, but it looks like one. There's a stage and whatnot, and a pole. And with a pole dancer on it, which is just a cardboard cutout and stuff like that. So it's the Killhouse is it's kind of generic. Like it doesn't have really defining features, but it usually gets some interesting room combinations because they're a bit bigger. They're a little bigger than the Caesar, so they're not as cramped. And but they're not like they still have small rooms. Like it's a lot of small rooms, except for the club, which is usually pretty big. But all the other rooms are pretty close quarters, but there are a lot of them. So there's a lot of navigation on the Killhouse tile set. Okay, let's talk about movement and shooting mechanics. So we're gonna start with the shooting. One thing a lot of people don't know when they start a game is that there are 3 different shooting modes. You can just hip fire, or you can aim down sights, as in most shooter games. But there's also a third fire mode, which is called brace fire, which is kind of in between. So it's you're not as slow as you would be while aiming down sight, and you're also not as zoomed in, but your accuracy is a little lower than that as well. But it's way better than hip firing. But you're also a little slower than hip firing. As I said, it's somewhere in between. You can also sprint in the game, which like while you're sprinting, you cannot shoot. But you can stop and then shoot pretty quickly right now. But sprinting is super loud, so sound is pretty important as well. Especially at the beginning of the map, of the round, because the attackers are moving around the building and the defenders are trying to figure out where they're coming from, and they can hear them sprinting around outside, because as I said, sprinting is pretty loud. And so that's an important factor. So if you want to go quiet, you can slow walk instead, which you do by holding the control button by default. And it makes you walk slow, but also quiet. So that's a thing as well. Right now, there's no leaning. A lot of people ask about leaning. Leaning is not out of the picture yet. We might get leaning in the future, but right now it's not in. The devs are thinking about trying out ambidextrous aiming first, so you can swap the sight you're holding your weapon, which gives you like a little side advantage, like depending on which corner you're looking at. And if that works well, they might try out leaning, but right now it's not in there. But we will see if that comes at some point. Okay, now I'm going to talk about equipment. Before I do so, however, I have to put out a disclaimer. I'm not a gun nerd at all. I try to use generic terms and I try to look them up so I don't say anything terribly wrong. But if I don't use the correct term, please don't shoot me. I'm just trying to explain what the weapons are or an equipment, what equipment is available and what weapons are available and stuff like that. So let's start with the attacker equipment, and let's talk about primary weapons first. So the most common primary weapon for the attackers is the AP25. It's a fully automatic all-round rifle with a decent fire rate, and it can hold 25 bullets per mag. It's a jack of all trades, but it's really good at all trades. It excels at basically any range. You can use it in brace fire and ADS. It has a really nice red dot sight. You will, like, it's always a good pick. You also get 10 of those, so it's unlikely you run out. So if you're in doubt, just pick the AP25, you will not regret it. If you want something a little bit more specialized, you can go for the BLK-TAR, which is a mid to long range semi-automatic rifle. It holds 20 bullets per mag, and it just has more punch than the AP25. On short range, it's a little harder to deal that damage because you cannot just hold the button down. But as soon as you get a little bit, as soon as you get in mid or long range, the BLK-TAR is just a tad stronger than the AP25 usually. But you also only get 4 of those, so you have to spread them out over the 3 rounds a little bit. If you want to go close quarters, you can take the DL12. It's the attacker shotgun. It holds 6 shells in a barrel, and you can carry another 8 shells on your body. It's really easy with that thing to one-shot people in close range, and it's still pretty decent in mid-range. Like, you usually 2-shot people, and this thing fires fast if you want to. So it's a strong pick if you're going for close quarters. You got 4 of those, so you have to spread them out a little bit. Also, keep in mind, shotguns can be used to open green doors without like kicking them. So that's always an important thing as well. So the last of the primary weapons for the attackers is the SABR. It's a semi-automatic sniper rifle with 7 bullets in the mag. It has a night vision scope, which is pretty good when it's dark, but it's not as great when it's not dark because it actually obscures quite a bit of your vision. It also, like, if you're desperate, it has a brace fire mode, which can be used for mid-range or short-range engagements, but it's kind of hard. The gun basically is better than the BLK-TAR on long range, mainly because it packs a punch. Like, you can one-shot, headshot, and defenders with it. However, it has a little bit higher recoil than the BLK-TAR, but the damage is worth it usually. It's kind of a power weapon. You only get 1 of those. For secondary weapons, the attackers only have 1 choice. It's the PK-57. It's an all-round semi-automatic pistol with 15 bullets per mag. It's pretty decent at any range, really. It can be used in ADS and brace fire, and it's just a pretty good secondary in general, so it's a good backup for when your primary runs out. And also keep in mind it has a flashlight, so for defenders this is very worthwhile to pick up when they can loot the attackers, because it's basically an emergency flashlight as a secondary in your secondary item slot. So that's pretty good. You get 15 of those, so you will not run out in the 3 rounds you play, even if you die every round. So let's talk about tools, shall we? The attackers have 15 flashbangs, and flashbangs are really strong in this game. They have a flash effect when you look at them, and they also have a bang effect, which even goes through walls. The bang effect has like mouse acceleration and will punch your aim and whatnot. It's really annoying if you're too close to these things, and they can really tag out a defender for quite a while. It will not, however, flash attackers whatsoever, so usually as an attacker you throw it in and you run in with it at the same time. Because you will not be affected by it at all. And those things are really essential for room clearing, because the attackers have to get in there, since the defenders have the position advantage, obviously. Then we have 4 smoke grenades, which can be used for creating smoke, obviously. They're good at blocking lines of sight, and yeah, that's like it. They're smoke grenades, there's not much to say about them. Then the attackers have 2 frag grenades, which deal decent damage at a decent range. They're good for taking out the car, for example, because they can destroy it. They can also destroy barbed wire, which is really important, because, well, yeah, barbed wire is annoying. And so, yeah, you got 2 of those. Then you get 3 suppressors, which can be put on the AP25, the BLK-TAR, or the PK-57, and they will make your gun quieter, obviously, and will also reduce muzzle flash, and it's a little easier to aim with them as without one. And they can be good if you like want to flank or do a late flank, like the team is going one direction and you're doing a flank through a different entry or something like that. Then they're pretty useful. You also get 4 NVGs, even though you have 5 people. So when you go for a blackout strategy, one of you has to rely on their flashlight or use the SABR, which has a night vision scope. NVGs in general are very valuable in this game, since blackout strategies are so strong, because when it's dark in this game. And especially for defenders, looting NVGs can be very valuable, because they can surprise the attackers by using lighter strategies themselves when they are equipped with NVGs. So that's really strong. And they're in general very high value items. Then the attackers have 2 Clackers, which are used to blow up charges. And yeah, you have to be close to the charge, and then you have to click it repeatedly, and it will clack, 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 and then it will blow up the charge. You get only 2 of those, even though you have 3 charges, so you have to either like keep one from one round to another, or use one for 2 charges, or you will not be able to use all your charges, obviously. You get 2 door charges, which are used, don't be surprised, to blow up doors. Usually for red doors. You can blow up green doors, but you can just kick them. So you usually use them for red doors or for the loading docks on factory maps. You can also blow peeking holes into the shutters on storefront. And one important feature of door charge is that they destroy barbed wire. So defenders cannot just put barbed wire behind a red door because, well, when it blows up, the barbed wire will be destroyed anyway. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Then there are big tools, which are not going in your inventory slots, but you have to hold them with 2 hands, and as soon as you switch to something else, they will be dropped. So you got 1 wall charge, which is being used to blow up walls, interior walls only though, exterior walls cannot be breached. And you can also use it to blow up the shutters on C-store, which gives you another way of entering the building. They can also be used to just blow up doors if you want to enter through a door and don't have a door charge left, for example, so that's valuable as well. Then you get 2 shields, which can be very valuable if used correctly. They're pretty big full body shields, but however, in order to be fully concealed, you have to crouch while using them. And since they are big items, you have to hold them with 2 hands, so you cannot shoot while holding them. But they're impenetrable, so they provide pretty useful cover for you and your team. Let's talk about defender equipment. For primary weapons, the defenders have a lot of options and way more variety than the attackers have. First off, they have 2 Ingmars, which is a fully automatic gun which holds 20 bullets per magazine, and it's pretty reliable on mid to long range. However, at these ranges, it's getting outclassed by the attacker's BLK-TAR, so be aware about that. Then we get the F1 Legros. You get 3 of those. It's a mid-range semi-automatic rifle with 10 bullets per magazine. It's really strong and reliable, but it has one major downside. It has a ridiculously high reload time, so you really don't want to reload this during a firefight. But besides that, very strong weapon. Then we got the KR-82U. You got 2 of those. It's a fully automatic short rifle with 30 bullets per mag. It packs tons of damage and is probably one of the strongest and most versatile weapons for the defenders. Then we have the Gruber 5. You got 2 of those. It's a short to mid-range SMG with very low damage but a ridiculously high fire rate. It holds 30 bullets per mag and it's a headshot killing machine. But if you don't hit headshots reliable, it's not that great and is usually getting outclassed by other guns. Then we have a niche gun, the NEC 11. You get 2 of those. It's a very short-range SMG with 31 bullets per mag. It's very strong at point-blank range, but basically useless at any other distance, so be careful with it. Then we have 4 super shotguns. Well, it's a shotgun with 5 shells, and you can carry up to 8 additional shells with you. It's decent, but not as reliable as the attacker shotgun. Then we have 3 power weapons, the first one being the MAWP, which is a single-shot sniper rifle, which kills attackers with a single headshot. A body shot, however, will not kill them, but it will leave them with very little health. It holds, well, a single shot, and you can carry up to 8 additional bullets for it. However, there are only 10 bullets total for it, so you will not be able to use it for more than 1 or 2 rounds usually. The next power weapon is the auto shotgun. It's a semi-automatic shotgun with 20 bullets per magazine. It fires at insane speeds and is extremely deadly on short to mid range. It comes with 2 magazines, which allows you to usually use it for 2 rounds if you don't lose it, and it's probably one of the strongest assets defenders have overall. The last power weapon is the shopping cart technical. Well, it's a shopping cart with an LMG strapped on top of it. It has 155 bullets which pack a punch, they penetrate walls and bodies alike, and it's just ridiculously deadly. However, the downsides are major as well. It has a ridiculously low movement and rotation speed, and it cannot be brought to the next round. You will not be able to pick it up at the end of a round and keep it with you. Let's talk about secondary weapons. First, we have 7 Get-9s. A Get-9 is an all-round semi-automatic pistol with 20 bullets per mag and a pretty decent fire rate, but the damage is not great, however. Then we have 3 LS-45s, which is a semi-automatic heavy pistol with really good damage. However, it only holds 7 bullets per mag, so you will run out of bullets way faster than with Get-9. Last but not least, we have 4 small shotguns, which are just weaker versions of the super shotgun. They hold 3 shells and you can carry up to 8 additional ones. Defender tools are very interesting. First we have 6 barbed wires. Barbed wires can be deployed, and whenever someone walks through them, they will be slowed down heavily and it will make a lot of noise so you can hear them approach. When deployed in choke points, they are very effective at slowing down attacker push, and when you catch an attacker walking through them, they will have a hard time avoiding your attacks. You cannot, however, pick them up again, so be aware of that. Then we have 4 Molotovs. Molotovs provide a decent AoE damage over time effect, and when comboed with barbed wire can create deadly traps. Then the defenders have 3 Flairs, which provide light for a few seconds when the attackers take out power. And last but not least, they have 2 Can Suppressors, which they can put on the pistols and the small SMGs. And that's everything. That's the game. If you found this video helpful, feel free to press the like button. And if you're looking for more Due Process content in the future, feel free to press the subscribe button as well. I'm TH Pine, thanks a lot for watching, have fun, and see you next time.